Hello, everyone. Kiki and Shawn are a thing. Recently, we saw Kiki Palmer had Shawn Evans on her podcast, and the internet has been a flutter, a buzz ever since. And so I am so lucky and so grateful to be here today with a number of astrologers I really admire and respect to talk about their astrological compatibility or their synastry. And so before we delve into the charts, I do want to share a little bit about all of us. So, my name is Jess. I'm of Spicy Gemini Astrology, Spicy Gemini Memes, and also just Spicy Gemini, all of the above. I am on Bsky, Instagram, Threads, and I am a modern astrologer with a significant traditional set of influences, and I primarily focus on tropical astrology.
Do I go next or
Yes,
you want me?
please, I would love that.
Okay, I figured since it's all in order, so I go next. But hi everyone, I'm Akosua. Um, I am a modern astrologer with a lot of Hellenistic undertones that I like to use in my practice. I am a Leo sun, Aries moon, Capricorn rising, and I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Substack, and also Threads.
Hi everyone, my name is Neha. I am a traditional astrologer with a modern flair. I started modern, ended up traditional. Astrology is so cool. And I primarily do tropical, and I like to say I like help people thrive through the language of the stars. And you can catch me on Instagram, Threads as Astrology with Neha, and on TikTok and Blue Sky as Love Neha Ja. Yay! And I'm a Leo sun. Scorpio moon, Libra rising.
Hi everyone! So I'm so honored to be with you all. I love talking about the pop culture and pop astrology, so different lens with that. I would say I'm more of a traditional astrology focus, but like I respect the outers. I love the asteroids, so kind of like people are saying, modern influences, but grounded in tradition. I'm really into the lots, which if you interact with my work at all, you'll start to know. And I really like to see how like we have influences of our life interact with the stars. So for me, that's a lot around like religion and meaning making, as well as like disability and chronic illness. So if you want to follow along with that, but also I do a lot of stuff with like pop culture. So we get a little bit of serious and a little bit of fun.
Love that. Yes. Thank you all so much for joining me. Now, before we get into the breakdown, and there are a lot of different layers we are going to consider, I want to first introduce you to the lore of Shawn Evans and Keke Palmer. So they first met in 2017 when Shawn Evans had Keke Palmer on his show Hot Ones, which is a YouTube-based series where everyone eats hot wings that get progressively hotter, and it is a true joy. He then had her back on in 2021. Their chemistry has always kind of been a thing. And in 2023, when Shawn Evans was interviewed on Chicken Shop Date, he shared that his number one crush was Keke Palmer of all of the guests that he has had. Um, in September of 2025, for the third time, Keke went on Shawn's show, and Keke was like, maybe we should kiss to see if we have chemistry. And like, we have that moment forever now. And just a few days ago, Keke had Shawn on her show, Baby, This is Keke Palmer, and the internet again has just been like taken by what they are bringing to the table since that moment. And I mean, it's been an ongoing journey. We're coming up on 10 years since they've known one another. It seems mostly in this professional domain, but nonetheless, this is just really sweet and cute and nice. So, important notes at the very beginning of this interview with Keke Palmer. Keke notes that Shawn's sun, moon, and rising are Taurus sun, Scorpio moon, and Libra rising. Now, everywhere on the internet, it is stated that he is born April 26th, not 2018, 1986. If he is born on that date, which we see here is when he was validating was his birthday, uh, it's not possible for him to have a Scorpio moon and a Libra rising. The moon is in the sign of Scorpio for the first 17 minutes of his birthday, so April 26th. But at that time, the rising's in Capricorn, and the rest of the day, we see the Sagittarius moon. With that in mind, we are going to be considering the chart listed on astro.com as the accurate birth time. He did verbally convey that his birth time is 9:50 a.m., and we have evidence that it's April 26, 1986. That's where we're going. And as with all things, we're not in their relationship. We are not interacting with them directly. So the delineations we're bringing today are for entertainment purposes. Everyone has a little bit of a different understanding of how synastry works. At least in my practice, I think it's helpful. We get some insight into how people are inclined to interact with one another, but it's not everything, right? So please keep that in mind as we proceed. So now we're just going to dive in. The inner wheel, we have Keke Palmer. The outer wheel, we have Shawn Evans. In this chart, they have the same rising sign. So all of these houses are the same. What do you see?
I mean, that Venus ascendant, like, no wonder, like, first of all, Kiki having Venus rising is like, she's been such a charming, lovable, like, well-liked public figure over the years. And like that, and like Venus ascendant, it's like, that's just my type. That's kind of the energy I get from that. And the fact that they also both have their moon in Sagittarius as their ascendant lord is like, so yes, they have the like nurturing, like, Shawn Evans is known for food and he also has like Taurus placement, so very like lunar in nature. Um, but they both have this like, and Kiki was like a child star, right? So they've been in like the public sphere for lunar themes, but they also have this like Sagittarius, like very fun, adventurous, like jovial personality, like laughing. And yeah, those are some of my thoughts. I'm curious to hear yours.
I think that that's gorgeous. I love the co-presence of the two suns in Sagittarius or moons in Sagittarius. My brain is ahead of what my mouth is doing. I wanted to note there's also a pretty close trine between their two Earth suns. And so I think that at multiple junctures, they are on the same wavelength. Like they are able to meet and match one another's energies. We also see that at minimum, there is affirmation in the direction of like cordial, friendly friendship dynamics because we're activating social houses. We have Kiki's sun activating his third house, which I tend to associate with, closer immediate bonds. And then we have Shawn's sun activating her 11th house, which is associated with community and friendship more broadly. So, like, there is a nice rapport. Like, they do seem to be sort of on the same wave. What else do you see?
I think the timing of it is interesting, like this most recent interview, because they both have like the Saturn, like Aries Saturn, transiting Aries Saturn is like activating placements in their charts. So like for Kiki, it's opposing her Mars and her Jupiter. And then for Shawn, it's on his Mercury, and if we take both of them as Cancer risings, like it's a seventh house activation, which is cool. So we could see like
Yes.
like multiple layers, like hey, that's two people hanging out, which is a seventh house activation, or we could be like, oh, it's maybe more romantic, like a significant entry point for a significant other. So we'll have to debate that, but
Absolutely. And it's interesting with Saturn activating, hopefully both of their 10th houses simultaneously, and at minimum, definitely his Mercury, because that kind of feels like something solidifying. So like they have been in one another's orbit, but now it's like actually we have to have a conversation. Like there is are they going to date? Are they not? Like what is the actual vibe? That's a really good pull. I appreciate that a lot.
So I'm kind of looking at it from a transit point of view. So I think Saturn's really going to get the final say on how this relationship progresses because with Saturn and Aries. It's gonna eventually, assuming this is the correct chart,
Or
hit the mid. I think it passed the midheaven. Saturn's at 14, 15 degrees, right? Or 13
at
degrees.
12. It is
12
at 12 ish.
today, as of today, yeah. So the hype of the relationship, TikTok is buzzing with like give this man a chance. Um, Saturn's really gonna get the final say on all of this, and then I'm really, really, and Saturn's about to perfect its opposition to the Jupiter in Libra for Kiki Palmer, and that could be very exciting. I honestly I think oppositions and squares is a very good indicator for when action happens. So, and there's going to be like a lot of squares too. So we got the square at the apex of the chart, the seventh house, all that cardinal energy. So certainly, if it's not romantic, absolutely business, beautiful business
Yup.
partners. Yes, something. Hmm.
Agreed. Agreed. And now this is sort of tangentially related. I was noticing this conjunction. This is not going to change based on the birth time. This is the moon might, right? But I'm looking at Saturn and the North Node specifically. So I was kind of interested in what your thoughts were, kind of on both sides of the nodes. I was hesitant to say like, oh yeah, like they're going to be together forever, but now we're noticing that Saturn's really strongly activated. He seems to be a sort of Saturnian figure in her life in a general sense. Perhaps it is for the best, but when I was just independently looking at this, I'm like, like I don't know if this is something where there is a genuine connection, but there are external things that sort of limit the depth of connection. And this is like obviously all of it speculation, but I am kind of looking at it as though Shawn may be more reserved in the realm of romance. And so like there is that obvious chemistry, but he may be, I don't know if he's had any public romances, to be honest with you, but I was just kind of feeling into this as like, does anyone else have thoughts about, specifically Saturn conjoining her north node or Chiron on her south node?
It's an interesting like timing piece as well because our full moon coming up is going to be
Oh,
like right there too. So
you're
like it's
right.
kind of like the stars are like this is a developing story. Like keep
Yes.
going with us because there's going to be a lot of points where we'll see like different facets. But like he does really read Saturnian, like in his way that he presents. And so I'll be interested to see what's happening. And like her Venus is in Cancer, and like right now it's Venus transiting Venus is in Cancer, so it's not exactly the return window, but like we can see like it makes sense that we would see like hints of relational development, which like doesn't always have to be romantic because like Venus deals with like many spheres of things. But yeah, it's just an interesting time of like the stars are like definitely something's happening, and the four of us and many others are like, what is it? We want to know.
Yes, that's a really good point. Shawn also just got that Saturn trine that's going to be sort of part of the conversation. I don't think he will get a second exact trine, but when Saturn stations retrograde, it will be around. And Kiki
He
had
does get a second trine by degree, yeah, because
okay.
Saturn stations direct in December,
Okay.
7 degrees something minutes. So that and the fact that Saturn's the ruler of both of their sevenths, if the rising signs are correct, and then like I'm a lot girly, so I was looking. Both of their lot of unions are also ruled by Saturn. I do think with like Saturn on the North Node though like maybe she'll be wanting more from him, kind of what you said of like maybe he's more reserved in the romance. He's not like the most romantic figure, I would say, like in the pop culture sphere, you know. I do think like his like Saturn moon is like he's guiding people through eating these spicy hot wings as they get spicier and spicier, and he has like the calm, the reserved. I saw this hilarious post on Threads, I think by Ryan Ken, that was like, I see it like Shawn Shawn is basically talking people through it when he's there eating the hot wings. So, yeah, I feel like there's this almost like contained Sagittarius energy, while Kiki has more of that like open-hearted fire sign vibe. Though I do think it's significant since Saturn is so connected to a signifier of love for both of them. And one more thing I wanted to note is like their Venuses are like sextile by degree, basically. And they both like Venus in Taurus is dignified by domicile, and then Venus in Cancer is dignified by triplicity. I don't think it's in any bounds there. And I think it's a Jupiter Moon decan. So not by decan or bounds, but by triplicity. And like I think in general that gives this level of compatibility. One of Alomi's translations for Venus in Cancer is that, so this is just general, you have to always contextualize it, but hers is hella angular. So it says, they are fickle in the pursuit of love, at once seeking love ardently, but doubtful of the lovers they encounter. May be idle for many years, even experiencing loneliness before seeking love. However, once they seek love, they will move swiftly and throw themselves heedlessly forward. So I'm like, maybe she's in that, like, that more mindful, like, it has sussing it out type vibe before, because it seems like once she loves deeply, loves quickly, versus Shawn, has that fixed Venus. He's been like, I've loved you for years, maybe not love, but he's had this it's been a very, very slow burn.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a great, great point. Another thing with Kiki's Venus, this is ruling her fourth house as well as her 11th house. So it's almost like once I love you, like you're in, like you are part of my like inner circle. And so that makes sense in terms of like, okay, feeling it out. And then once, getting past the layers of developing connection, it's like they're in it together. So I feel like that could also be nice and stabilizing for his Taurus Venus. I don't know. Do any of you consider planets squaring the nodes in terms of synastry? Because I'm seeing this, and I have not thought about this or developed it at all. I'm just seeing it now in real time. But does that have any story here?
I'm seeing a couple squares. So, Shawn's Venus squares her Taurus, both in domicile, which is very interesting. I do think that Kiki Palmer does kind of bring in a little bit of unconventionality to his life. Maybe she could be the first, like, they could be like the first time he's dating interracially or was into a woman that was a different race, ethnicity than he is. And then that North Node in Aries, square Venus is really interesting because it's kind of like there's a lesson there. There's certainly a lesson there because Kiki's Venus is like, let me love you, let me nurture you, let's be together forever and just like, be combined. And that North Node in Aries is like, leave me alone. So his lesson in this life with that North Node in Aries is really to learn a healthy amount of independence. And he does have a South Node in Libra, so he could possibly have had a pattern of codependence earlier in his life. I don't know his relationship history at the moment, or in the past, but yeah, there's quite a few squares in the synastry, but it's incredibly activating.
Yeah, great points. I did not register at all the Saturn activation either. Very
Yeah.
dynamic.
Oh yeah, and then also Venus square Chiron. So his Venus Taurus, her Chiron Leo.
Oh, I'm getting a very chironic relationship, and that's something that I saw in the 12th part, and I'm like, okay.
Lots of healing, lots of healing. So that,
Yes.
yeah, that Chiron conjunct the South Node and the 12th, like there's something about the voice. Kiki's very mercurial. She has that Mercury Virgo and the Sun Virgo, and then the South Node Mercury. So like possibly, and you can tell she's probably a prodigy.
Hmm.
I mean, she did Aquila and the Bee, and I think from an interview I watched, she got the role because she was the only one that was able to pronounce the words from the casting. I remember some time ago. So she's very intelligent. She knows how to use her voice and all that. And I think that's something he admires about her the most is her voice and her intelligence and her wit and her fast like quips and whatnot. So that's definitely something that she can help him with. And then also, um, he definitely serves as like a source of grounding for her and healing because that Venus in Taurus square her Chiron is really going to help with like I think she's had some issues in relationships before with her ex and the father of her child. So I think that if they do decide to pursue a romantic relationship, um, of course, with all relationships, is going to be a little rocky, but there's a lot of opportunities for healing here.
Yeah. And it's just so much activation. I didn't know what to expect going into this. I saw Venus maybe on the ascendant for him, but just delving in, it's like, okay, no, this is really something. And at absolute minimum, I could see strong friendship or obviously the professional collaborations as mentioned previously. But yeah, is there anything else outstanding here? Because we also have aspects to consider.
What do you mean, like
Well,
just in general?
yeah, just in general here, and then we will touch on briefly. We've been doing aspects, to be honest, but just kind of visualizing this. For me, when I saw this, I was like, yes, the close sextile, but I always look to see what Saturn's doing, to see if there's any additional grounding. And there's a sextile here, which means I think his passion for her is not going away. Like, that is his type. Like, I think that that can be really wonderful just in terms of the tempos that they're keeping. But of course, there can also be that component of desire and connection. And I kind of feel like he will treat her the way that she deserves to be treated, like put on a pedestal and just admire her sincerely and deeply across whatever context of relationship they share. Also, I just kind of appreciate this visual. So if you need anything else here, we could talk here or we can keep moving.
We
I
can keep.
had a thought and I forgot.
That's okay. Yeah.
So I think, okay, so Kiki is going to be 33.
Hmm.
So that puts her in her 10th house year ruled by Aries. So that could be like maybe there could be some news around that.
Okay.
Relationship progression going on there. A little maybe. Sort of kinda.
Do we have a Mars retrograde coming up January, December, January? When is it?
Yeah, January like 10th, 11th, 2027. It starts around 10 degrees of Virgo and it
Okay.
goes to 20 something degrees of Leo. I forget off the top of my head. So it's going to cover her Sun, Mercury, and Chiron by conjunction.
Mm.
And it's going to oppose his, oh, I don't think by degree it'll oppose his Jupiter, actually, the retrograde part.
Mhm.
But it'll square his Venus. And yeah, it'll also oppose her natal Saturn. So yeah, those are some notes there. Yeah, with this retrograde, since it'll be her time lord. And he just turned 40.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know what age, what
That's
perfection
that's
year.
that fifth
Fifth?
part time. Hmm.
Which is
Okay,
good.
Mars.
Well,
Mars on Mars.
yeah.
I think it's interesting with this Saturn stationing direct around December, like right around this retrograde. Like, I don't know, maybe like that December, January into early 2027 is like significant on their timeline.
It's also interesting, again, that all of this is flowering now in his fifth house perfection year of like pleasure and like his creative self-expression. It's like, okay, like nice. Um, I'm curious how the Mars retrograde is going to show up for her. Maybe there is like a new sort of collaboration or like plans in the works of building something with somebody close to her. I know Mars retrogrades and retrogrades in general tend to be not always the most fun, but it could be some type of rebrand or a focus on cultivating something that she will launch following the retrograde season.
Wow, well his time lord is his natal Mars in Capricorn, and that's like a natal Mars in Capricorn and the seventh being activated. It's like I do want to pursue you. It's kind of giving active pursuing of something in relationships, or I think it could be the collaborations ruling Mars ruling their fifth and their 10th, like a creative project. I saw someone was like on Threads, saying something like they should do like a Hot Ones collab and call it Slow Burn. Um,
But actually, yes. Absolutely.
right. So whether it's professional or romantic or a little mix of both, like I think there could be something lucrative there potentially.
So we should keep our eyes on the connection. Please go ahead.
Okay, so I cheated a little bit and I pulled up Kiki's solar.
Good. We love
Sorry
it.
guys, I cheated. So she will be, I'm assuming I just put her natal. She could be in LA when she turns 33. She could I just pulled up the natal. Um, so if she say is in Illinois, then it should be in a Cancer ruled, solar return year. And then the first house ruler would be the moon in Aquarius, 11 degrees in the eighth house. What's interesting here is her seventh house is ruled by Capricorn with Juno on the descendant. And the
Ooh,
seventh house lord being Saturn and Aries in the 10th conjunct the midheaven. So that gives even more fire. And then Venus will be in Libra in her fourth, opposing Saturn, her seventh house ruler. So, um, yeah, this could be something. This definitely could be something.
question. How do
Yeah.
we feel about the shape Saturn is in currently? Do you think that that has any impact? Like, could it be like kind of a spark and then it fizzles because Saturn is
Ooh.
not thriving?
I wonder if it's like what acoustic could you say your name again?
Akosua.
Akosua, I apologize. Thank you. Akosua was saying about like the unorthodox, like this being a different relationship, maybe dating interracially, Shawn for the first time. And I think sometimes fallen planets like Saturn and Aries can be like doing the unorthodox thing or doing something unconventional in some way.
Yep.
But I could also see the spark fizzle, Saturn and Aries is the spark, a fire.
Yeah, good point.
However,
Yes.
however,
Yes.
Saturn will be making his way to his north node towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
So then that can give it some stability.
Good
I
point.
think I like to think of Saturn and Aries as like being brave.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe he's hesitant or the both of them are hesitant when it comes to commitment. And Saturn and Aries kind of just like again lights that is like the lighter, the hot potato, like get it
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. Another consideration is we're going to have Jupiter enter the sign of Leo shortly, and that we start getting the trine. So Jupiter will be supporting Saturn, which is nice because we've had
Yeah.
square for several months. Elise, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I realized like as we were talking that like when Jupiter enters Leo and then Mars comes to meet it in like October, November, that
Hmm.
will be mirroring Kiki's like setup because she has Mars approaching Jupiter, so it'll be a sextile. So she'll be able to like reap some of the benefits of her natal promise of the Jupiter and Mars, and
Love.
also at that time, of course, the retrogrades will be starting, so the
Mhm.
retrogrades will be angular for both of them. And like it'll be interesting because like I've noticed like as we were talking, a lot of their timing is around the nodes. And like
Mhm.
this last meeting that they had a few days ago, that was around the bending of the nodes. So like
Ah.
in the hot ones where he admitted that he had a crush on her, like that was an eclipse window because the sun and the south node were like right there. So like it's really interesting. Like and then we brought up the south node synastry and like the synastry and the aspects. I was like,
Mhm.
they're just a karmic relationship, like for better for worse, and that makes sense if we look at their activations.
Yeah. Incredible. That's a really good point. I very much agree. Are there other things we want to cover here? I want to make sure because there are other tidbits that we're going to delve into. Any other thoughts before we keep moving? Okay. Because I agree that there is like a karmic underlying something. So I like to play with the 12th part charts. They're also called the Dodecatomoria, the D12. Basically, in this space, it is the micro zodiac. So you have your natal placements, but each natal placement has a secondary energy that is demonstrated in this 12th part chart. Now, I consider this experimental research because there's not a lot of work done in this direction in particular. But what we see here is the inner wheel for both of these images are one of the two partners. So the inner wheel here is Keke Palmer's natal chart. And then the inner wheel on the right is Shawn's natal chart. The outer wheel is the 12th-part chart for their respective partner. And for me, what I have found is that if two people have really, really good chemistry and we're not really seeing a lot of activation in the natal synastry, which is like not a concern here, we tend to see it in the 12th-part chart. And so there are a couple of ways you can look at this. You can look at the 12th-part charts together. You can look at a natal chart with the 12th-part chart, which is what we are doing here. And you can kind of mix and match and just see. This is not where I spend a lot of time, but it's just like extra layers. It's like the icing on the cake. And so, what is really outstanding in this space is a couple of things. So, with Shawn's natal chart, he's the inner wheel. We see he has the domicile day chart, Jupiter in the sign of Pisces, and there is a close conjunction with her 12th part Jupiter. And so, there is this sense of building this expansive joy and playfulness and silliness, and there's just an ease with how they are interacting. And it also feels like when they are together, there's the sort of bouncing of ideas off of one another and just fluidly moving through like a wide variety of possibilities. We also see that her 12th part North Node is conjoining his Jupiter. And so with the karmic piece specifically, I want to see what the nodes are doing. When I say karmic, I just mean some type of tether that are pulling these people together. That's really the extent to which I'm considering this. But it just feels like her internal sort of light and brightness helps to exaggerate and amplify his Jupiter in Pisces, which obviously is part of the narrative. He is really well known at this point, started on YouTube, has like an Emmy. He was nominated for an Emmy, like really mainstream, but it just seems like she continues to uplift and together. It almost, in my mind, it feels like two butterflies like playing together, where there's like joy and there's lightness and there's been so much mayhem just in the world in general. But when we have these tidbits of like goodness online or wherever, I feel like we really can sink into it and enjoy it. And their chemistry really brings that forth. Another factor here we see Kiki's natal Mars is at 9 degrees in the sign of Libra. There's a close trine with his 12th part Mars. So again, there's that rapport of like, oh, there really is a good fit here. I do see this especially in the context of like romantic, physical chemistry. But it's also just like the tempos that they are keeping with life. The last piece that I want to highlight here before we move on is that Kiki's 10th house is in the sign of Aries, and his Venus in the 12th part chart is activating that 10th house space. And so what we know is he has had a long-standing crush on this woman. And so that's kind of his role in her life. Obviously not the beginning and the end. This is a secondary component, but I just saw that as like really sweet and nice. The other layer, if we're just looking at the 12th part to 12th part, is that they have a Venus Mars conjunction to the degree. So again, like 10 out of 10 would recommend. It does seem like there is a meaningful connection that could be lasting. Now we have the love placements.
Yay. So these are a lot of the placements that we look in medieval Samkhya astrology. There's also like the Master of Romantic Harmony, which you like calculate based on all these things. I did not do that. However, we have the rest of these here. And like something really like a lot of what we saw in their synastry is that they get each other in a lot of ways, and that's also highlighted by their temperament. So the temperament is, yeah, basically, I feel like it's a self-explanatory word. It's, one's natural nature as they move through the world. And it's made out of these different qualities. And so Keke Palmer is sanguine, which is associated with the air element or the planet Jupiter. It has the qualities of being hot and wet. And, Keke is that type of figure. Even though she is a Cancer rising and lunar in nature, she has this very, expansive, warm, friendly, more extroverted, you could say, vibe to her. And Shawn, while temperature wise, he's actually really balanced. He's neither really hot or cold. He was the same either way when I did the math. However, he is wet, which means he is oriented towards connecting with other people, which makes sense. His job is to interview people, and he gets a lot of positive feedback for thoughtful questions, where it's like, oh, you're actually interested in these people. You're not just interested in what they could do for you. And so by nature, they kind of match. It is usually recommended to have like slightly opposite nature. So, for example, I have a more sanguine nature or like air nature, and my partner has a more earthy nature, and so there's like this like opposites attract dynamic. However, I also think there's something to be said for, oh, we have similar natures, we get each other. So I think that's a great friendship indicator. And again, as I mentioned, the lot of union, which is can also be seen as a lot of marriage. And if y'all are curious, I don't use gender, I use sect. So Kiki's born at night, so I use the night calculation for her. Shawn is born during day, so I use the day calculation for him. And they're both in Saturn ruled signs. So, like, again, emphasizing the Saturnian nature for both of them relationally. There's so many different points to look at. But the other one I wanted to highlight was the second triplicity lord of the fifth house, which Al-Andregazar says, represents pleasures, right? In general, the fifth house can be dating, sex, romance, but also children and creativity and taking risks, etc. And so we can look at the triplicity lords to get more specific with different topics. And so both of their the second triplicity lord of their fifth houses are trining each other. They're both in water signs, so this does show compatibility when it comes to sex, pleasure, romance, dating. So I thought that was pretty cute. They will have fun together. One thing about them, they will have.
Yes. Absolutely agree. Thank you so much for that breakdown. And also, all of these lots calculated. One thing that stands out to me is this lot of harmony. Again, we are a little bit up in the air in terms of his exact birth time, but if we do have the correct one listed, then his moon is right on top of her lot of harmony, which is so sweet. I think that that is a really nice support as well.
That is cute. That is really cute. And the lot of harmony is said to be like just things that people enjoy, desire, things that bring them harmony into their life. It's not always, it is a part of the romantic analysis, but it's not like the most romantic lot in contrast to like, say, a lot of Eros or Union. But it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, his moon finds comfort in the things that she enjoys in life.
Yes, that's really sweet. And like I remember seeing a clip of I don't know if it was this most recent interview, I think it may have been, but she was just saying, I want to get dressed up for my crush Shawn. Like she was also like so excited to have him on or to be interacting with him. So like that makes sense with this lot of harmony where it's just it brings her joy. His presence brings her some type of joy. Elyse, do you have something you want to share?
Oh, yeah. I have two things actually. So
Hmm.
like the lot of her lot of fornication, which is like fornication is a word that like is very like antiquated, but like we can think of it in like modern terms of like things that like excite you or like pique your interest like romantically or like even sexually. Like her lot of fornication is at 7 degrees Taurus and his sun is at 6 degrees. So like
Right.
his sun is lighting her lot of fornication. So that's an indicator of like, oh, like there might be something there. Like there might be a flirty vibe there. But
Mhm.
also, I I looked at their lots of um religion or piety because they can also be looked as a friendship lot. And because like Neha was saying, like there's a compatibility there on possibly a friendship level. And like oftentimes if your lot of piety like have a similar one or the same one, that's also a good indication that you see the world in a similar place. And if his chart is correct, like they both have it in Scorpio. Um, so that's another indication. And we're in the religion of the age right now is Mars too. So that's another indication to be like, oh, like things are happening in the world, but also like this affects them personally, like a both and,
Got it.
which is true for everyone, but like for them, it's like astrology and the universe is like putting an exclamation point, like, look here, like this is really important for you.
Like check this out,
Yeah.
actually. Yes. I love that. And I love when you bring in the lot of piety and the lot of friendship. You are the leading expert in that arena currently, and I'm loving every minute of it. Anything else that stands out in this? I mean, there's a lot that stands out in this space, but anything that speaks to you?
Like the fact that, oh, just kidding. They're reverse. I was gonna be like their seventh, like the first triplicity lord of their seventh, but Sagittarius and Taurus can't see each other. Plot twist. My bad, guys.
There is like a sympathy there though. There is a sympathy there, so there is a pull there still. And
Yeah.
yeah. And also like we were just talking about the Lot of Eros just a minute ago, and
Mhm.
his Lot of Eros and her moon um see each other, and her moon is more important for her because she's a night chart. So that's another indication of like, hey, like these important parts of you are lighting up the other person, which is always great, whether that's like romantic or friendship wise.
Yeah, such a good call. So there's what we're seeing as astrologers is there's so much activation. Like for me, this is like above the norm by a lot in terms of the level of activation. Do you all agree, or what are you thinking? A little bit of yes. Cool. All right. So that takes us to the final point. If do we think that this is going to remain a cute, flirty relationship? Does there seem to be some type of actual potential for a long-term connection? Should they be professional collaborators? All of the above? What do you say?
I think that there's just so much going on. So, I was just thinking like with Uranus being in Gemini, and that's gonna square their moon, or it's already
Mhm.
squaring their moon. We're gonna be in for a surprise. We're definitely, I don't think we're gonna be able to track this as close as we think we can.
Do you think like surprise dating and then some years later we find out that they were already together or something like that?
That could be it. It could be like a proposal and everyone's like, what the hell? Like yeah, lots going on here. But I always like taking account of Uranus because Uranus really throws that curveball and it's hitting their moons.
Yep. Great point. The
Mhm.
ascendant ruler. I kind of think my gut says the flirtation is going to build and develop. I wonder if he has commitment issues a little bit. I think that again, there's a lot of healing that's possible in the space of them together, whether that's just friends, just collaborators, or something more. But I think a little bit of it is him working with his Chiron and being like, is it safe for me to vocalize truly? Like, even if it's sort of bumbling through the deeper feelings with his Mars, or excuse me, his Mercury in the sign of Aries, square his Mars, with compared to her domicile exalted Mercury in the sign of Virgo. But I think that she's also probably very easy to talk to because she has Mercury conjoining Chiron. Anyway, I think that again, ongoing flirtation. He may need to get over some of his closeness things that I'm kind of picking up in his chart. There's the potential for long term. I don't know if we'll see it come to fruition.
Yeah, and also, Uranus was on his Venus not too long ago, so
Oh, yep.
got some, he's got some healing to do. You know,
That's also,
these Tauruses, they don't like change. So, Uranus put his Venus in a blender and now it's like,
but
oh.
actually,
So,
that that can also signal a shift in terms of like
mhm.
this is how we were doing things and nope, we're going this way now. So perhaps he is at a point in his life where he's ready to settle down. Fifth house perfection year, 40 can also be like a milestone of like, okay, what are we doing? But I agree. Uranus is certainly a strong part of this story. Elise, what do you think?
Yeah. I kind of lean towards we I don't know, like the nodal aspects to me is kind of like we'll see like a continuation of flirting, and like even if they don't um end up together, like the nodal aspects will activate, and they'll like
Mhm.
it's one of those things that they'll never forget each other. And I
Mhm.
think for like good reason, like I think there's a natural like rapport. So they'll always like know that for them, like especially with their sextiles of the Venuses and like their trines with their suns. But if they do go into a more serious like romantic thing, then like they're gonna be like, oh, I had this ex and like, I'll never forget them. And because we have the internet, we will never forget it either. So yeah.
Yes. And that's beautiful. Neha, take us home. What do you think?
I think that they should be friends. I think
Okay.
that, like, I think that, like, maybe the flirtationship, yes. I think what's really healing is to also see, like, an unambiguously black woman be publicly desired. And I feel like that's something beautiful with the Chiron of it all. I think, if they do date, I don't know if they would be in the long term. I just see her Saturn overcoming his Venus, the North Node on his Saturn moon, where it's like maybe there will always be a desire for more, or like maybe it won't fully click on like in the long-term commitment level. But I think I think unless something really shitty happens behind the scenes. I think that even if they date and break up, that there will still be these friendly vibes. I think they can have a great business relationship. They should take that. They should take that thread on that slow burn one and do something with it. I think, yeah, that's my opinion. That's my opinion. But I'm like rooting for them. I saw someone call him Caliente Caillou, and I was like, well, yes. Yeah, hell yeah, Caliente Caillou and Kiki Palmer. Do your thing.
Yes, that's so funny. I'm gonna hold that in my heart. That title is hilarious. Yeah, I think that these are all really excellent takes. If nothing else, I would love to see them doing something together. I know that there was like a moment in time when Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart were really like collaborating, and they both have like really strong Scorpio placements, and it just worked. And it's like, okay. But
Yeah.
if there is that like sort of we can build a platform together. They should, especially if they're both the Cancer risings, because they have a similar energy with their midheavens. I think that's what we have. I have no idea what time it is, so I think that's what we have today. Thank you all so much for listening. Here's all of our information. Tell us, so I'm opening beginning of June my books. When are we opening things for each of you? Do you have anything you want to share or uplift in terms of what you're creating, what you're writing, anything like that? Please share.
I'll go first. I always have consults open pretty much, unless I say I don't. They're always there. Sometimes I announce that my books are open. I have like natal consults, timing consults, and I really like talking to people about their purpose. So I have a consult for that, and I do a lot of electional things. And my new website will be coming on June 8th, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, otherwise just follow my things. I have some workshops available for purchase if you're an astrology student and want to learn.
The workshops are so good. I took your casual electional astrology course, 10 out of 10.
Oh
Absolutely
my
love
God, thank you. That means so much coming from you.
it. What else do we have to share, please?
Yeah, my books are pretty much open for the most part. If there's something that you want to elaborate on that's not on the website, definitely message me on Threads or Instagram. I'm totally open. I have Uranus on my ascendant, so I don't really deal with that formal. Like, I could talk to you at 3 a.m. if I feel wired, but um, definitely check out my Substack. I just wrote an article about 2001 babies and them and my little theory about how their milestones could be an indicator for global collapse. And I kind of do a breakdown and have a timeline on that. So if you guys are interested, definitely take a look at that. But if you ever want to talk about astrology, just send me a message.
Remind us what your Substack handle is because I don't have that listed.
It's everything's on my link tree.
Perfect.
Everything. Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, it's a one-stop shop. Everything. Yeah.
Okay. Elyse, I know you have something coming out.
Yeah. So my books are also pretty much open. Like I'll be doing some traveling in June because ninth house Venus, so gonna travel sometime. So my books are a little bit less open in June, but still can meet with you. I do have a lot of piety guidebook in the works, which I'm excited about. I need to like dig deep. The past couple of days, the transits have been kind of dragging me, so I haven't really got to like knuckle down. But I'm really excited, and it'll be coming some point this summer. So keep an eye out, and if you don't feel like you can wait, I do have a lot of piety consultation where we can talk about religion, we can talk about friendship, we can talk about meaning making, whatever you want to do.
Yes, excellent. Three wonderful astrologers here today. Thank you so much for spending time with me. And thank you all for listening. I hope that you enjoyed. We would love to hear your thoughts in terms of if they should date, if they should collaborate, if they should just remain friends. And I hope you all have a wonderful day or night where you are. Bye.